What's up, YouTube? This is 82 and 0. Welcome back. So, continuing my series, how good would a player of the past be in today's modern era? We're going to talk about Oscar Robertson. Now, for those of you who don't know, Oscar Robertson was probably well, the conversation is either him or Jerry West, but West was kind of more of a shooting guard. But Oscar Robertson was the best point guard of his era in the 1960s, and he played from 61 to 73, 74. And the thing about Oscar Robertson was he was very well rounded. Sometimes people make a false comparison because they see that he was a point guard who averaged a triple double, so they just automatically assume he was a Russell Westbrook. Yeah, and this isn't any disrespect to Russell Westbrook, but Oscar Robertson played much different than Russell Westbrook. Because the thing about Westbrook was he's not always very efficient. Westbrook likes to take a lot of bad shots. And Oscar was never known to be like that. He would not take stupid shots to save his life. Very high IQ player. His highest field goal percentage that he averaged was 51.518% in the 62-63 season. Now, that's as a point guard in the early 60s. This is back when guards would average like 40, 41. And his highest points per game was 31.4 in the 63-64 season. His highest average assists per game was 11.5 in the 64-65 season. His highest rebound average was 12.5 in the 61-62 season. And he was the first player to average a triple-double for a season in the 61-62 season. So that's why he gets compared to Russell Westbrook, I think. But that's where the comparisons end. No disrespect to Russell Westbrook, but he's a 12-time All-Star, 6-time assist champion. He's a 1971 NBA champion, 11-time All-NBA, 3-time All-Star Game MVP, 1961 Rookie of the Year, and he's the 1964 MVP. And people really forget how good Oscar Robertson was. Let's talk about his PER. For his career, he averaged 23.2 PER. His highest PER that he averaged in the 60s. It's crazy. It's 27.6 PER. So, no matter how you look at Oscar, whether it's just face value at his stats or his advanced stats, he's an elite player. But there's some stuff you can't really measure on a stat sheet. And in my opinion, that would be his athleticism. He had a very high vertical. And I also think it was his basketball IQ. The guy, he was no doubt one of the smartest players in NBA history. He, like I said, he very rarely made mistakes on the basketball court. He wouldn't throw a lot of bad passes. He wouldn't take a lot of stupid shots. And just look at, I've never seen like a reported vertical leap from him, but just based on pictures and footage, you can see the guy was not a scrub by any means. And another thing about him was he was a pretty big guard for that time. Now, I know I said before the league average height was 6'6" back then in the 60s. But Oscar, during this time, most point guards were like 6'2", 6'3", and Oscar came in. He's a good 6'6". I know that he's listed 6'5" officially, but the thing is, they didn't measure players in their shoes back then. So playing, he would have been 6'6". So how good would he be today? Well, let's just say, for the sake of argument, in the original timeline, he was drafted in 1960. So let's say that 2010-11 was when he gets drafted in this modern scenario, and he plays up until 2023-24. You know, let's say, for the sake of argument, you know, I don't like to overthink these what if scenarios, because you can never really figure out every little detail. But let's say he played for the Kings, like in his original timeline, from 2010-11 season to 2019-20. His numbers, I don't think, would be much different than they were in his original timeline. He averaged 30 points per game quite a few times. I think 4 or 5 times. I don't know that he would average as many rebounds. And the reason I think that is because with the way the game is played today, it's a lot more perimeter oriented. You see a lot of guys taking threes, whereas back in his era, everybody pretty much drove to the basket. So he was right down there getting rebounds, but I don't think this is going to stop him from being a great rebounder. I could still see him averaging like 8, 9. Would he average a triple-double? I think he would. One season. I don't think he would do like what Russell Westbrook did. Do it 4 seasons in a row. Although I think he very well could. And the reason I say that is Oscar wasn't stat padding. I feel like a lot of times Westbrook is like, give me that extra rebound, give me that assist. Oscar just wanted to win. So, what about him on the Bucks? Because we all know he wouldn't have playoff success with the Kings in the 2010s. But what about him with the Bucks? Well, let's say he's on that 2021 Bucks team that won the championship, just like he was on that 1971 Bucks team. Let's say that instead of trading for Drew Holiday to win that championship, they traded for a modern Oscar Robertson playing. Yeah, they would get that chip. How I could see him in his prime averaging 25, 27 points per game, maybe on a bad team 30. He could get like 12, 13 assists per game. I don't see why not. On a good team with a lot of great players. But picture him playing with Giannis, right? I mean, let's picture this for a second. Let's picture in the original timeline when he joined the Bucks, he was 32, right? Let's picture a 32-year-old Oscar playing with Giannis in the NBA Finals against Chris Paul and the Suns. How crazy would that be? And we got to look at it like this too. How would he compare to all these point guards today if he was playing? Like, what if he was playing Chris Paul? What if he was playing Kemba Walker, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, John Wall? I mean, today there's a lot of great point guards. I don't see why he would struggle against them, given how well rounded he is. He was never really bad in an area. He didn't really have any weaknesses in his game. His free throw shooting was good. His playmaking was all time great. His defense was great. They didn't have all defensive teams until late in his career. But that doesn't mean he was a bad defender. He was a great defender. So I think had he played in this era, he'd be like a combination of Chris Paul with his playmaking and smart passes. But at the same time, he'd be like Westbrook with getting point guard rebounds. He could jump over people and get the rebounds. But I also think he'd be like, I want to say Curry in the fact that he's going to score if he has to. I'm not saying they're going to score the same way. I don't think Oscar would be this great 3-point shooter like Curry. Curry's in his own category, but there's no reason in my mind if Oscar was playing today, he couldn't be a great 3-point shooter. I just don't think that if you give Oscar what he had before, which was his mentality, I don't think he's going to take as many threes because he didn't like to take bad shots. So I can't really see him being the type of guy that like Curry to take 11 3-pointers a game. But I could still see him putting up 30 points per game, no doubt. And I think he'd be right up there with Curry as the greatest point guard of this generation. I've always said that the greatest point guard of all time is Magic Johnson. The second greatest point guard, Oscar Robertson. And the third is Curry. That's where I've stood for some time now, I should say. I think Oscar would really make an impact on any team he plays for today. And I think he would definitely help this Bucks team win a championship. And I could see him winning maybe 2 MVPs in this modern era. Maybe 3. Maybe he could win a Defensive Player of the Year too, like what you've seen Marcus Smart do. Because I don't think people really realize how good of a defender Oscar Robertson was. Because they didn't keep track of steals until his last season in the NBA. When he was old, but in his young years, he was a great lockdown defender. So, what are your guys' thoughts? How good would Oscar Robertson be if he played today? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Thanks for watching.